My name is Pearl Lyles.
Susan Watson.
Nina Wilson.
Chris Watts.
Monte Burton.
Hello, I'm Felicia King, and the title of my speech is Segregation, Important or Not. Imagine you're on your way home to South Carolina from visiting your uncle in Pennsylvania. This may seem like a pleasant trip, but there's a twist. Now, picture traveling on a bus between the years of 1945 and 1950. Because of the color of your skin, you have to sit in the back of the bus. While on this long trip home, you fall asleep waiting for your stop. Unfortunately, no one wakes you up, and you find yourself in a strange place called Alabama, which is the most segregated state in the South during this time. This may seem unusual and far-fetched, but it did happen to my great aunt Helen Hilton. Have you ever wondered if a member of your family experienced an event in their life relating to civil rights or any other historical event? I never gave it any thought. During the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, buses were segregated by race, with whites in the front and blacks in the back, according to Huda Verdi and Faith Balsey. They are the authors of Strategic Nonviolent Conflict, the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Even though bus segregation was wrong and degrading, African Americans needed the transportation to carry on with their daily lives. Today, I will explain how the segregated bus ride was significant to my great aunt Helen and many other African Americans, how the buses were protested against later, and how segregation ended on the bus. African Americans used the bus for everyday commute, such as they used the buses to go to and from work, to run their daily errands, and for simple travel. Like, let's say, for instance, if they needed to go see a friend or relative, many Americans did not have cars during that time, or if they did, they only had one vehicle per household. So when the other person went to work with the car, the other person had to use the bus. Moving along, we talk about the Montgomery bus boycott. The Balsies indicated that the boycott began with the arrest of Rosa Parks in 1955. Now, Rosa Parks, she was a seamstress, and she was a seamstress who was on her way home from work. According to Richard Cavendish, the author of the Alabama bus segregation, he reports how Rosa Parks, long active in the civil rights movement, declined to give a white man her seat on the Cleveland Avenue bus. Here is a picture of the bus, which is actually displayed in the Henry Ford Museum. And anytime that you're in the Detroit area, you can go take a look at the bus. They do have it on exhibit, along with many other Henry Ford vehicles. And also, the Balsies acknowledged that the boycott carried on for 381 days. That's a very long time to boycott. And during this time, 50,000 black people in Montgomery, Alabama had walked, carpooled to their jobs, schools, and homes. But fortunately, the Montgomery bus boycott led to the end of bus segregation for Montgomery, Alabama. According to Cavendish, the Montgomery bus boycott ended November the 13th, 1956, which also ended the bus segregation, and it was ruled by the U.S. Supreme Court. The Balsies go along to indicate that the buses were not integrated until December the 25th, 1956, which means that even though the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on the decision that the segregated buses were unconstitutional, it took them over a month to get this into effect. And going forward, by the U.S. Supreme Court ending bus segregation in Alabama, in Montgomery, Alabama, this means that African Americans could sit anywhere they wanted to on the bus. So no longer did they have to give up their seat just because a white person needed to sit down. Today, we have seen how important riding the bus was to African Americans in the South. Moreover, it was very difficult for them to travel without using the bus. As with many African Americans, including my great aunt Helen, they did not let segregated buses stop them from traveling, working, or taking care of their daily errands. The end of bus segregation was a monumental moment in history that we will never forget. So the next time you're visiting with your relative, and if you think they lived during this time, just take a moment and ask them if they remember anything that happened during that time. You may be surprised with what they tell you. Thank you.
That's it.